We run Duku, which is a local product design consultancy. We work on all sorts of different things, but we, a couple of years ago, won an Innovate UK grant to look at trying to improve accessibility within EV chargers. And it was quite a rare opportunity to start with a kind of clean sheet project, really. So it was very research-led. We worked with a lot of industry experts in terms of accessibility. And the output of the project was a concept charger that aims to address some of the issues that we found.
Fantastic. So that leads me nicely into my first question, and I think you've got a bit of a video to show, haven't you, as well? So what were some of the challenges with accessibility that you faced with current chargers, and what kind of things did you have to find solutions to?
So the project, as I say, is very research-led. We did an audit of charge points that have gone in both home and public, and some of the issues that we found were, and we took disabled drivers to these charge points. Some of the experts that we worked with, we ran trials to observe how they interacted and actually had to use these charge points, both what are called tethered and untethered. So ones where you bring your own cable, and one where the cables are attached to the charge point. In terms of what's currently out there, some have issues such as obstacles around the bases, or they're mounted up behind raised curbs. Some are right in the corner of a car park that were very difficult to find, with no lighting. Things like the displays, how you even set up an account when you're stood there to try and use them. Some fairly basic stuff, but what we also realised is that the weight of having to bring these cables to these charge points, get them out of the back of a car, untangle them at the side of the road, drag them around to the charge point, where that happens to be on your car, it was just a difficult process. And if you have a wheelchair or walking aids or any kind of dexterity problems like arthritis, for example, some of the trials users that we brought along simply couldn't do it. So we had a really good look, and what it boiled down to was, if you could make it get to a point where the process could be done using one hand, you would open up the opportunity for a lot more people to be able to do this process effortlessly. So that was really where we started with our brief, is to try and create a charge point that you could use using one hand. It means that if you have any mobility issues, you can steady yourself as you move around the vehicle. You can use a walking aid, you can use a wheelchair. And that was the brief that we started with.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. Now we've got these deadlines, haven't we? Is it 2030 of all new cars will be either electric or hybrid? We need to make sure that that is accessible to everyone. So we've got a video, haven't we? I think
you've got a, yeah, it's just a sort of summary of the project.
We'll try and play this one, and there's some quite surprising statistics at the beginning as well, which I think is quite interesting. So I'll play that one. Feel free to talk over it or as you will. Oh, one more. There we go. There we go.
Yes, we did. We worked with the RIDC, who Research Institute for Disabled Consumers. They gave us access to a panel of 400 drivers, because one of the first things we really struggled with is finding any disabled drivers that are using EVs currently. So we used refuelling existed at a petrol station as a kind of baseline to look at as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, some of the other issues we found, you see things like the bollards around the base of charge points. They've been put in to protect them. They're expensive bits of kit, and people don't want cars bumping into them, but they create really quite a difficult obstacle to actually reach the charge point in the first place. You've also got issues in such as you can make the hardware better, but how you then design the space that they're in is also equally important. If you mount a bit of hardware behind the curb, it's the same problem. So this is our concept charger, and the kind of innovation here really is about motorising the cable. So we, through some design work, removed the need to put a bollard in around the base, and we motorise the cable so that you can take it out to a car using buttons on the plug.
You've got one with you today, haven't you? So
yeah, we've got one of our early prototypes.
Have a try.
Yeah.
So that's available as a domestic charger at the minute, isn't it? But you've had some funding to roll that out for a public charger, is that right?
Yeah, so we split it then into kind of two versions, a 7 kilowatt home version. So we were talking to people like the Motability Group who have 600 customers who they're looking to move to EVs in the next 3 years. But also a public charge point that would be more 7 to 22 kilowatt. And we picture that being a good solution in things like car parks, commercial businesses, so that they can offer an accessible charge point within their car park. I think the outcome, really, if you focus on trying to make something accessible, what you often end up with is something that's actually just easier for everyone to use.
More user-friendly, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it wasn't really intended to be a disabled charge point. It's just for everyone, really, and it just makes it easier. So we, at shows we've been to, and when we've been talking about this project, we've often had people come up and go, oh, that's so much better. So when I'm plugging my car in every night, or gathering up this massive cable on my driveway, and getting covered in mud and everything when I'm just setting off to work, it's just annoying. So managing that cable really also helps with some other things, which I think we're talking to people in depots and getting cables off the floor in depots where you've got electric vans, for example.
Absolutely. So are there grants or anything available for people that want to be installing these kinds of chargers?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a changing thing all the time, but I believe there are still grants for commercial businesses looking to put charge points in. .gov site really is the best place, I think, to do an eligibility criteria. For home, I think they phased out some of the grants, but there's still things like for company cars, there's incentives on benefit in kind and so on. So yeah, I'm not an expert on the grants in terms of installing them right now, but the .gov site is probably the best place to check that out.